What would you do if your own roommate tried to steal your home right out from under you? This is a story of betrayal, forgery, and savage revenge. Stay with me, because the ending? You won't see it coming. I still remember the day I dragged my life into that townhouse. Two battered suitcases, one box of books, and a thrift store coffee maker. That was all I owned that could make the place feel like mine. Austin's August heat clung to my back like a second shirt, and I cursed every step of the narrow staircase. Need help, roomie? I looked up. Brittany was leaning against the doorframe in her oversized sunglasses, holding a smoothie like she had just walked out of a lifestyle blog. She was everything I wasn't: blonde highlights, perfect manicure, always loud enough for everyone to hear. Yeah, actually, this thing feels like it's filled with bricks, I panted, adjusting the suitcase handle. She took the handle with surprising ease and hauled it inside. Girl, you pack like you're moving cross-country. I kind of am, I said with a laugh. Grad school isn't exactly a weekend trip. The townhouse was modest. Beige walls, mismatched carpet, the faint smell of lemon cleaner. But to me, it was possibility. Brittany had found the place online, bragging about how it was a steal in this neighborhood. I believed her. Rent was cheap enough that splitting it made sense. That first night, we ordered greasy pepperoni pizza and ate it straight from the box on the living room floor. Brittany cranked up a playlist, swaying to some pop remix as she waved her slice in the air. To new beginnings, she shouted. I clinked my soda can against hers. To surviving grad school and rent. She smirked. Please, with me as your roommate, you'll be living the dream. It seemed harmless when she claimed the bigger bedroom. I need the closet space, she explained, batting her mascara-coated lashes. I let it slide. I figured she'd compensate by handling more of the utilities or maybe stocking up on shared groceries. But that night, as I laid in my smaller room surrounded by unopened boxes, I couldn't shake the faint flicker of unease. Brittany was charming, magnetic even, but something about the way she said my house instead of our house stuck in my head. Still, I pushed it aside. People say first impressions are unreliable. I told myself this was just the stress of moving, and that Brittany and I were about to be the kind of roommates who shared stories at midnight and laughed over burnt popcorn. I had no idea then that she'd become the reason I'd learn what revenge really tastes like. The honeymoon phase didn't last long. By the second month, the stack of bills on the counter started to feel like a third roommate, one that Brittany conveniently ignored. I'd come home from campus, drop my bag, and spot the electric bill still unopened, the due date circled in red. Hey, did you get a chance to pay this? I asked one evening, holding it up as she sprawled across the couch, phone in hand. Brittany didn't even glance at me. Oh, totally. I'll Venmo you later. I'm just broke till Friday. That was her line every week. Broke till Friday. The problem was Friday never seemed to come. Meanwhile, the groceries I bought on my tight student budget kept vanishing. I'd open the fridge for leftovers, only to find empty containers or nothing at all. Once, I reached for the chicken I had marinated for lunch prep, but the Tupperware was gone. Britt, did you eat my chicken? She shrugged, standing in the kitchen with a spoon and a pint of ice cream. Oh, was that yours? I thought we were, sharing everything. I bit back my irritation. I don't mind sharing some things, but that was supposed to last me all week. She rolled her eyes, digging the spoon deeper. Relax, Rachel. You're so uptight. I'll replace it. She never did. When Nina came over that weekend, I vented while we sat on the front porch with iced coffees. She listened, shaking her head. That girl gives me bad vibes, Nina said flatly. Seriously. She's crossing lines, and you just let it slide. I sighed, staring out at the cracked pavement. She's annoying, but it's not worth a war over some chicken. Nina raised an eyebrow. It's not about chicken. It's about respect. She's testing how much you'll tolerate. Trust me, this won't stop here. Her words lodged in the back of my mind like a splinter. That night, I found one of my sweaters tossed on Brittany's chair, the one I hadn't even worn yet. When I confronted her, she twirled it in front of the mirror, posing in it. Cute, right? It's a little tight on me, though. Guess that's good for you. Could you at least ask before borrowing my clothes? I snapped. Brittany pouted like a child. Geez, I said it was cute. Calm down. I turned away, muttering, I'm not your closet. She laughed, a sharp little sound that followed me into my room. Lighten up, Rachel. You're starting to sound like someone's mom. I shut the door, heart racing, anger simmering. It wasn't just the bills or the groceries or the sweater. It was the way she made me feel like I was overreacting every single time. Like maybe I was the problem. By October, the little irritations weren't so little anymore. The bills, the groceries, the missing clothes. It all piled up until I felt like I was living with a spoiled teenager instead of another adult. The breaking point came on a Wednesday night. I had just slogged home from the library, brain fried from reading about 19th century economic theories. All I wanted was a shower and sleep. Instead, I walked into the living room to find the thermostat set to 68 and every single light blazing. Brittany was perched on the arm of the couch, laughing into her phone, while a half-eaten takeout spread littered the coffee table. Britt, I said, dropping my bag by the door. Why are all the lights on? And the heat's running nonstop. She waved me off, still giggling at whatever guy was on the other end of her call. Because I'm freezing, duh. Don't be cheap, Rachel. We're not living in a cave. It's not about being cheap, I snapped. It's about not tripling our utility bill. Her smile faltered. She pulled the phone away from her ear and gave me a look like I was the one interrupting. Hold on, babe, she purred into the phone before hitting mute. Can you not do this right now? I'm on a call. I stared at her. You've ignored the electric bill for 2 months. I paid it both times. And now you're blasting heat like money grows on trees. She huffed, rolling her eyes so hard I thought they might stick. God, Rachel, you're always so dramatic. I said I'd Venmo you. You never do, I shot back. You say it and then nothing happens. Do you even realize I'm covering for you every month? For a moment, she just blinked at me. Then, like a switch flipping, her tone shifted. Sweet. Innocent. Almost condescending. I didn't realize it upset you this much, she said softly. If you'd just asked nicely instead of biting my head off, maybe I'd actually remember. My jaw clenched. That was Brittany's magic trick, turning her screw-ups into my overreactions. Forget it, I muttered, storming past her toward the kitchen. Of course, the sink was piled high with dirty dishes. None of them mine. Plates with crusted cheese, a glass rimmed with lipstick, forks floating in murky water. Are you serious? I yelled from the kitchen. Brittany sauntered in, twirling a strand of hair. What now? The sink. This is disgusting. She glanced at it and shrugged. I'll get to it. Eventually. Why are you so obsessed with chores? You sound like my mom nagging me. Because it's not fair. My voice cracked. I cook, I clean. I pay bills you ignore, and you just float around like none of it matters. For a split second, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face. Then she smirked. Maybe you just like playing housewife. That one landed like a slap. I felt my face heat up, my throat tightening. You're unbelievable, I whispered. Relax, she said, brushing past me to grab a soda from the fridge. You're wound way too tight. Honestly, you should thank me for teaching you how to chill. I wanted to scream, to throw one of those dirty plates against the wall, but instead I shut myself in my room and pressed my fists into the mattress until my knuckles ached. Through the thin walls, I heard her unmute her call and laugh again, her voice sweet and carefree. Sorry about that, babe. My roommate's just being super controlling. You know how some people are. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, realizing Nina had been right. This wasn't about chicken or bills or dirty dishes. This was a game to Brittany, a test of how far she could push me before I broke. And I had a sinking feeling she was just getting started. It happened on a Monday afternoon, the kind of day that already felt like sandpaper against my nerves. I'd been in back-to-back seminars, running on caffeine and a granola bar, when I got home and found a crisp envelope sitting on the kitchen counter. The landlord's logo stamped across the top made my stomach clench. I tore it open, scanning the first line, lease renewal confirmation. At first, I smiled. Maybe Mr. Alvarez had finally sent paperwork for both of us to sign together. Finally, some structure. Finally, a chance to lay things out evenly. Then my eyes landed on the second line. Primary tenant, Brittany Klein. My breath hitched. I read it again, slower this time, as if maybe I'd misinterpreted. But no, there it was in bold type. Brittany's name. Only hers. My pulse thundered in my ears. I flipped through the pages. Every line, every clause, every responsibility, all tied to her. Nowhere did my name appear. The front door swung open behind me, and in walked Brittany, juggling shopping bags and humming like she was in a commercial. "Hey, Rumi," she chirped, dropping her haul onto the couch. "What's for dinner?" I held up the papers, my voice trembling. "What is this?" She glanced at them, then shrugged casually, like I was holding a menu. "Oh, that. Lease renewal. No big deal." No big deal. My words came out sharper than I intended. "You signed this without me. My name isn't even on it." Brittany plopped onto the couch, kicking off her boots. "Yeah, I figured it'd be easier this way. You're in school, you've got a million things going on. Why stress over boring paperwork?" I stared at her, disbelief clawing up my throat. "Because it's my home too. You didn't even ask me." She leaned back, smirking. "Technically, it's my home now. I'm the one on the lease. Which means if anyone should be stressed, it's you." The words knocked the air out of me. Are you threatening me?" "Relax." She stretched like a cat basking in sunlight. "I'm just saying you don't have to worry about anything. I'll take care of the landlord, the lease, all that boring stuff. You just pay me rent every month, and we're good." Pay her rent. Like I was suddenly her tenant. "You can't be serious," I whispered. "Why not?" she said, picking at her nails. "Honestly, it's kind of better this way. Cleaner. Fewer complications. And hey, if you ever decide to move out, it's all on me. You're free. Win-win." I gripped the counter to steady myself. My mind raced, flipping through every conversation we'd had about rent, bills, groceries. All the little lies, all the casual shrugs. They weren't accidents. She had been maneuvering toward this. "You went behind my back," I said, my voice low. She met my eyes, her smile widening. "Don't be so dramatic. You should be thanking me. I just saved you from having to deal with paperwork you clearly hate." I wanted to scream, to tear the smugness right off her face. Instead, I stood frozen, the papers crinkling in my fists. That night, I locked myself in my room, staring at the ceiling as the walls closed in. My sanctuary, the place I thought was mine, had been stolen with the swipe of a pen. For the first time, I let the thoughts settle like poison in my chest. I wasn't safe here. Not with her. And Brittany knew it. The first week after the lease bombshell, I tiptoed around the apartment like it was enemy territory. Every interaction with Brittany felt loaded, like she was daring me to acknowledge the shift. And she made sure I noticed. The first stunt came on a Thursday night. I was halfway through revising a paper when suddenly, the Wi-Fi cut out. At first, I assumed the router had glitched. I got up, checked the cables, rebooted it. Nothing. My phone buzzed a moment later. A text from Brittany. "Oops, forgot to pay the bill. Should be back tomorrow." Followed by a winky face. My jaw dropped. She had literally bragged just days earlier about renewing the lease, about being the one in charge. And now she was shrugging off basic utilities like it was some cute accident. I typed back furiously, "I have a deadline tonight. This isn't funny." No reply. I ended up trudging across campus to the library, teeth chattering in the October chill, finishing my paper under fluorescent lights while Brittany probably lounged on the couch with her perfectly good cell data. The next morning, the Wi-Fi worked again. Almost like she'd flipped it back just to remind me who held the switch. A few days later, I came home from class to find my favorite throw blanket, the one my grandmother knitted me before she passed, crumpled on the hallway floor outside my locked bedroom door. Inside my room, things were off. Not missing exactly, but shifted. Books stacked in the wrong order. A drawer left half open. My coffee mug, the one I always kept on my desk, sitting on the windowsill like someone had been sipping from it while watching the street below. I stood frozen, heart pounding. "Brittany!" I yelled, storming into the living room. She was sprawled across the couch, scrolling her phone. "Why were you in my room?" She glanced up lazily. "What are you talking about?" "My stuff. You moved it." She raised her brows, all innocence. "Rachel, maybe you're just stressed and forgetting where you put things. Grad school does that to people." "Don't gaslight me," I snapped. "You left my blanket in the hall." That made her laugh, a sharp, cruel sound. "Oh my God, you're paranoid. Why would I want your ugly old blanket?" I stared at her, the smugness radiating off her like perfume. I knew, deep in my gut, that she'd done it, that she'd been in my space. But she left just enough room for doubt, just enough wiggle room for me to question myself. The mind games continued. One night, I came home to find the deadbolt engaged from the inside. My key wouldn't turn. I pounded on the door until she finally opened it, hair mussed, looking annoyed. "Geez, chill," she said. "I just forgot you weren't home. Don't be so dramatic." Another time, I pulled milk from the fridge only to gag at the smell. Sour, clumpy, weeks past expiration. When I confronted her, she just shrugged. "Maybe don't drink it then." It wasn't just inconvenience anymore. It was deliberate, calculated. The worst moment came one Saturday morning. I stepped out of my room and nearly tripped because my desk chair was sitting in the hallway, angled toward my bedroom door like it had been waiting. I froze, a shiver running up my spine. "Brittany!" I shouted. She poked her head out of the bathroom, toothbrush in hand. "What?" "My chair. Why is it out here?" She looked at it, then back at me, shrugging. "Maybe you sleepwalked." And then she laughed. A light, airy laugh that made my blood boil. I dragged the chair back into my room and locked the door behind me. My hands shook as I shoved it under the desk. That was the moment I realized Nina's warnings weren't paranoia. Brittany wasn't just careless, or messy, or selfish. She was testing boundaries, seeing how far she could push before I snapped. And I couldn't shake the sickening feeling that she wasn't anywhere close to finished. By November, I was running on fumes. Sleep was shallow, broken by every creak of the apartment. Studying felt impossible with Brittany's laughter echoing down the hall at 2 a.m., or music blasting just loud enough to seep through my locked door. I knew what she was doing, testing me, but the longer it went on, the more I started questioning myself. Was I overreacting? Was I just stressed from school? Maybe Brittany wasn't as calculating as I thought. That's exactly what she wanted. Nina was the only person who kept me tethered to reality. We met at a little diner near campus, one of those greasy spoon places with red vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like burnt tar. I unloaded everything. The Wi-Fi stunt, the chair outside my room, the deadbolt. Nina listened, arms folded, jaw tight. "Rachel, that's not normal roommate stuff. That's targeted." I stirred cream into my coffee, staring at the swirling patterns. But she's so good at spinning it. Every time I call her out, she acts like I'm crazy, like I misplaced things or made it up. "That's gaslighting," Nina said flatly. "Classic tactic. Make you doubt your own memory, so she keeps control." I rubbed my temples. What do I even do? She's on the lease now. If I fight her, I could be out on the street. Nina leaned closer, her voice low. "Then you document everything. Write it down. Dates, times, screenshots, texts. Build a record. She can't twist the facts if you've got proof." Her certainty steadied me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe I wasn't losing my mind. That night, I started keeping a notebook hidden under my mattress. Every weird incident, every smirk, every passive-aggressive text, I wrote it all down. But Brittany seemed to sense the shift, like she could smell my defiance. One evening, I came home and found her in the kitchen with a group of friends, laughing, glasses of wine scattered across the counter. "Rachel," she called, grinning too wide. "We were just talking about you." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Oh, just telling them how you've been super stressed lately. Like, paranoid-level stressed." She laughed, her friends chuckling with her. "She thinks I sneak into her room." The group erupted. One guy smirked, shaking his head like I was a punchline. I felt my face burn. That's not funny. Relax, Brittany said smoothly, pouring herself more wine. We're just teasing. You need to lighten up. I stormed to my room, slamming the door, my heart hammering. But the laughter followed me through the walls, mocking, echoing. Later that week, I woke to find a sticky note on my desk. Smile more. Life's too short. I hadn't left it. I knew that. But when I confronted Brittany, she tilted her head, feigning confusion. A sticky note? Seriously? You think I have time for that? Yes, I hissed. Because you've done worse. Her eyes glittered. Or maybe you left it for yourself and forgot. You do seem scatterbrained lately. That was her weapon. Not the note itself, but the suggestion that I couldn't even trust my own reality. By the end of the month, my notebook was half full. I had dates, times, incidents carefully logged. Still, in the quiet hours of the night, I'd stare at those pages and wonder if I was building a case or just collecting scraps of paranoia. But then I'd hear Brittany's laughter, drifting through the apartment, and I knew. I wasn't crazy. I was being hunted. And the cracks in her facade weren't mine to question. They were the cracks in my own sanity, widening a little more each day. Finals week was already crushing me. Papers, presentations, late nights at the library. My brain felt like a wrung-out sponge. All I wanted was stability. 4 walls, a bed, Wi-Fi that didn't cut out. The bare minimum. But Brittany must have smelled the weakness, because that's when she went in for the kill. It started with my laptop. I'd left it charging on my desk, the screen open with a half-finished research paper. When I came home that night, the screen was dark, but not from sleep mode. The document was gone. Vanished. Recycle bin empty. Panic surged. I tore through my folders, retraced every step. Nothing. 2 weeks of work, wiped clean. I stormed into the living room, clutching the laptop like evidence. Brittany was on the couch with Netflix glowing across her face. What did you do? I demanded. She didn't look away from the screen. With what? My paper. It's gone. I know you were in my room again. Finally, she glanced at me, her smirk slow and deliberate. Rachel, if your computer skills are as bad as your cooking, no wonder you can't keep track of your files. My chest tightened. You deleted it. She shrugged. Prove it. That was her favorite phrase. Prove it. And the worst part was she knew I couldn't. 2 nights later, I came home late from the library to find the chain lock latched from the inside. My key rattled uselessly in the door. Brittany, I shouted, pounding. Open the door. Silence. I banged harder, my fists aching, until finally she swung it open, hair tousled, robe loosely tied. Jesus, Rachel, do you know what time it is? You locked me out, I spat. I was sleeping. She yawned, stretching. You could have just crashed somewhere else. Isn't that what college kids do? I shoved past her, shaking with rage. You don't get to lock me out of my own home. Correction. She leaned in close, her perfume cloying. My lease. My home. You're just lucky I let you stay. Her voice was honeyed poison, the words sliding under my skin until I could hardly breathe. The breaking point came the following weekend. I left early for a study group, and when I came back, my mattress was gone. I froze in the doorway, staring at the empty bed frame. My sheets were stuffed in a trash bag on the floor. Brittany, my voice cracked. She appeared in the hall, sipping from a wine glass. Oh hey. Yeah, I needed space for storage, so I moved your mattress to the basement. You'll be fine with the frame, right? Minimalist living is very trendy. I could barely speak. You can't do this. She smirked, tilting her head. Prove it. That night, I curled on the bare wood slats, every bone in my body aching. Something inside me broke. I wasn't just her roommate anymore. I was her captive audience, her toy. She wanted me humiliated, small, powerless. And for the first time, I stopped thinking about surviving. I started thinking about winning. If Brittany wanted proof, I'd give her something better. Evidence. receipts, a plan. And when it hit, it wouldn't just be enough to make her stop. It would be enough to make her pack. The Monday after the mattress stunt, I showed up at Nina's apartment with dark circles under my eyes and a notebook bulging with scribbled entries. She opened the door, took one look at me, and said, "All right. No more playing defense. It's time we hit back." I dropped onto her couch, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me. "She controls the lease, Nina. I can't just kick her out." "Maybe not," she said, sliding a mug of coffee into my hands. "But you've got leverage. You've got records. You just need the right angle." I flipped open my notebook. Dates, times, texts, photos. Evidence of Brittany's little empire of control. She's too careful. Everything she does is deniable. I sound paranoid unless someone's living in it with me. Nina tapped her lip, thinking. "What about the lease itself? She signed it without you, right?" "Yeah. She renewed it on her own." "And she forged your name anywhere?" I hesitated. "I don't know. I haven't seen the full contract." Nina leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Then that's where we start." That night, I called Mr. Alvarez, our landlord. I put on my politest voice, explaining I just wanted to confirm some details for financial aid paperwork. He was skeptical, but after a few minutes, he agreed to let me stop by the office. I hung up, my pulse racing. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of control. The next afternoon, I sat in his office, flipping through the lease packet. There it was, Brittany's scrawling signature in blue ink, and next to it another one. My name, written in handwriting that looked close enough to mine, but wrong. I stared at it, my stomach twisting. "Everything all right?" Mr. Alvarez asked, adjusting his glasses. I forced a smile. "Yeah. Just making sure I understand the payment breakdown." But inside, my blood was on fire. She hadn't just taken the lease. She'd forged my signature. Back at Nina's, I slammed the lease packet down on her kitchen table. She skimmed it, then pointed. This is your weapon. Forgery is a felony, Raj." My throat was tight. "If I show this to Alvarez, she's done." "Exactly," Nina said. "But don't just throw it at him. Build the case. Stack your receipts. Show him the pattern. That way, when the hammer falls, it falls hard." Over the next week, I became someone else. Every interaction with Brittany, I smiled sweetly, nodded, acted small. She thought she'd broken me, and I let her think it. But behind my locked door, I scanned documents, backed up texts, photographed sticky notes, even logged when the Wi-Fi mysteriously went out. I felt like a spy in my own home. Every laugh of hers, every smirk, every tossed off "prove it" fueled me. And then came the cherry on top. One night, she bragged on the phone to a friend while I pretended to sleep. "Yeah, it was easy," she giggled. Just scribbled her name next to mine. Alvarez didn't even notice. Now she's basically my tenant. Pays me rent like a little sister. She doesn't even realize how trapped she is. My hand tightened around the pen in my notebook, scribbling furiously. Word for word. Oh, I realized everything. By the end of the week, I had a file thick enough to choke her lies. And for the first time in months, I slept soundly, dreaming of the moment Brittany's smirk finally cracked. Because soon, she wouldn't be asking me to prove it. I'd be showing everyone. It was a Friday afternoon when I finally made my move. Mr. Alvarez had agreed to meet with both of us to clear up some questions about the lease. His tone on the phone was polite but weary, like he'd already sensed the tension bubbling in his property. Brittany, of course, strutted into the office like she was walking a runway. Perfectly blow-dried hair, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, her smile wide enough to blind. "Mr. Alvarez," she purred, shaking his hand. "So sorry for the confusion. Rachel can be a little dramatic." My fists clenched in my lap. Alvarez motioned us to sit. "Ladies, let's get this straightened out. Rachel, you said you had concerns about the lease." I slid the packet across the desk. "Yes, specifically this page." He adjusted his glasses, flipping through until he found the signature line. My name, scrawled in shaky pen. That's supposed to be me, I said calmly. But it isn't. Brittany laughed too loud, her voice bouncing around the small office. Oh my God, she signed it. She's just stressed. She probably forgot. I slid my real signature across the table. Bank forms. License. Student ID. And then the screenshots. Texts. Voice memo transcribed word for word. Just scribbled her name next to mine. Alvarez didn't even notice. Now she's basically my tenant. I read aloud, my voice carrying in the room. That was her bragging about it. Silence. Then a low murmur from the tenants in the back. One of them actually snorted. Alvarez's jaw tightened as he looked at Brittany. This is forgery, Miss Klein. And harassment. You'll vacate immediately. Brittany's face drained of color. Her little empire of smirks crumbled as whispers spread behind her. Wait, she sputtered. It's not, I didn't. But no one bought it. She was already guilty in their eyes. That night, words spread faster than fire. By morning, half the complex knew about the girl who forged her roommate's name and got herself evicted. I overheard two neighbors talking in the stairwell. Brittany? Oh, hell no. I wouldn't live with her for free. Same. Can't trust her. Her army of why-night friends ghosted her. Every couch she tried to crash on was suddenly too full. One by one, her options vanished. 3 days later, she knocked on my door. I opened it to find her mascara smudged, a trash bag at her feet. She tried to muster a smile. Rachel, hey. Listen, I just need a couple of days. Until I find something else. You know how hard the market is right now. I let her words hang there, savoring the reversal. Then I smiled sweetly, her kind of smile. Technically, it's my home now. My lease. My rules. Her face froze. I tilted my head. So no. You should probably find somewhere else. I'm not your safety net. She flinched, like the words had teeth. You can't just. I cut her off with her favorite line. Relax, Brittany. You'll land on your feet. People like you don't lose, remember? The look in her eyes, rage, humiliation, disbelief, was the sweetest trophy I could ever keep. When she finally dragged her bag down the stairs, neighbors peered out their doors, whispering. Not one offered her help. I hadn't realized how much weight I was carrying until it lifted. My chest felt lighter, my thoughts clearer. Nina came by the next day with pizza and champagne. We sat on the bare floor of the living room, the echoes of laughter bouncing differently now, brighter, safe. You really did it, she said, raising her glass. We did it, I corrected. I never would have pulled it off without you. She grinned. Alvarez looked like he wanted to melt into his chair when you dropped that forgery bomb. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Her face was priceless. All that smugness gone in a second. Some scars lingered, of course. I still double-checked the locks at night. Still caught myself listening for Brittany's laugh in the dark. But each day, it faded a little more, replaced by something stronger, resolve. Because Brittany had taught me something, even if she didn't mean to. People who thrive on manipulation count on silence, on fear, on the belief that you'll doubt yourself too much to fight back. But when you gather the receipts, when you keep pushing, when you choose to expose the lie, they can't survive the light. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real revenge. Not just watching them pack and leave, but knowing they'll remember you as the one person who refused to play their game and won. I closed my notebook that night, the one crammed with months of Brittany's cruelty, and tucked it deep into a drawer. Not as a wound, not as a scar, but as a trophy. And that was the real revenge. Not just her eviction, not just the forgery exposed, but watching the queen of the townhouse realize she had nowhere left to rule. And if you enjoyed this story, smash that like button, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe, because the next twist is just around the corner.